What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Monday. It is the beginning of the week. We're marching towards the end of the month. The first Ruben Amorim game as Manchester United head coach is in the books. And we've learned quite a bit. Well, we have and we haven't we? Certainly from that 1-1 draw against Ipswich yesterday. But I think we learned maybe not so much about what we already know when it comes to the players and things like that. But we certainly, I think, learned a lot about Ruben Amorim, his patience or maybe lack thereof with some players, with some aspects, his frustrations, the work he's got ahead of him as well. There's a lot to get into this morning. We're going to go through all of the quotes. We're going to be going through all of you guys. I want you guys to get involved this morning in the chat, how you're feeling, how you perceived yesterday, what you took away from it. Did you take positives? Did you take negatives away? Let me know in the chat. Let's get involved. This is going to be a lot of fun this morning. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and get involved. I can see already people are involved in the chat. As Daniel Luciano says right there. Let's get to a quick 100 likes, people. Yes, let's indeed. We've got All Elite, one of our mod members, saying, love the subs, no nonsense taking. Jason Rowan said, Roy Keane, yeah. I don't know if you guys saw that in the on socials yesterday. Of course, former Ipswich manager, and someone was giving him a stick in the crowd, went up to him and said, let's discuss it in the car park. Let's discuss it in the car park. And you know, like Roy Keane, like people get older, they maybe mellow down a little bit, and I would say Roy Keane has, but you just would not want to be on the other end of the Roy Keane glare, would you? The Roy Keane glare of when he's looking you dead in the eye like this. Let's talk about it in the car park. I'm like, oh, all right, thanks. I'd rather not, actually, Roy. Thank you very much. So, big up Roy Keane. First super chat, straight out of the way from Tabrez, says, embarrassing from Ed and Sky. Give Ruben time to cook. Yes. What Tabrez is referring to was the embarrassing incident that happened after the game when Ruben Amorim was having his interview. Just peak embarrassment. It was disgraceful. I thought it lacked class. I thought it lacked intelligence, and I think it's all round bad viewing. To have Jamie Redknapp as a pundit was just absolutely unbelievable. Having him as a pundit, the Ed Sheeran stuff too. No, what I am talking about is Ruben Amorim was doing his post-match interview, and he's getting asked questions, and you could tell clearly he's annoyed, he's frustrated, he's a winner, he wants to win, and he's realizing the scope of the job that he's got in front of him. He's had Ed Sheeran show up and go, like, you know, shaking hands with Jamie Redknapp, hi. And he's like, oh, you know, you probably don't want to talk to me at the moment, do you? And Ruben Amorim's like, no, I don't. I don't want to talk to anyone. You know, he actually even mentioned that, and we're going to get to the quotes in very shortly. He even mentioned that, you know, in my 4 years at Sporting, I didn't speak as much as I've spoken in this last week. And basically, I think even it was Carl Anker from The Athletic was saying that he's going to go to the head of comms and say, look, I don't want to talk that much. I don't want to do as many interviews, or I don't want to do as many unnecessary interviews. Now, certainly, I think, you know, maybe a bit of a pushback to that might be, you know, when you're the Man United head coach, you have to do a lot of media. It is what it is. But certainly, he shouldn't have to do interviews that he doesn't need to do. At this point of the season, you know, screw what they want. It doesn't matter. When it comes to the media, how they'll take that, who knows? Look, this is why I think people were saying to me on the pre-match yesterday or at the end of last week about, the media, they're treating Ruben Amorim very nicely, or they're treating Ruben Amorim so different to how they treated Erik ten Hag. And you just go, not really. You know, they don't care. You know what I mean? They don't they don't particularly care about being nice, and it's not within their best interest to be friends with whoever is the coach of the Manchester United team. They'll be nice to someone through the door. You know, I remember when Eric walked in, he shook all their hands. You know, very personable. And a couple of weeks later, you know, he's getting Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher 2-on-1 at Carrington, peppering him with questions in an interview. Granted, what makes it easier is getting results. When you get results, they have less to talk about, don't they? But this is what they do. We shouldn't be surprised by that, certainly. What I think managers and head coaches should do at Man United, just Keep them right there, arm's distance, and they are not your friends. That was something that Erik ten Hag, I think, tried to do initially. They are not your friends. They will never be your friends. They are only out to get you. That is, and I could say that's very paranoid, but that is what they are there for. Joe Fleming says, okay, Rashford had his chance. Let's leave it now, yeah? We'll talk about all of the players and stuff like that in a second. And Raval says, I think Ahmad has to stay wing-back. Nobody on this team can play there other than him and maybe Mazraoui, but I liked him as centre-back. We'll talk about all of the players and how they fit and things like that as well. Again, there's so much to get into with a lot of his quotes. I thought his quotes were very revealing. Ruben Amorim yesterday. Already, we've got over 100 likes. Let's see if we can get to 250, 300 straight out the gate. Make this a very big show. So before we get to the Ruben quotes, there's a quote from Owen Hargreaves that I saw after the game yesterday, which actually was really interesting. And the reason it's interesting is because he said he was standing right next to Ruben Amorim, or sitting quite close to him whilst he was on the touchline. And I think it really encapsulates how Ruben Amorim was feeling, and again, the job that he has on his hands moving forward. He says, quote, he, Amorim, was very frustrated. I'm not going to lie. He was right in front of me, and he was really, really frustrated with a lot of things. I think Dallow's positioning frustrated him a little bit in the first half. I think he didn't really like the balance of the midfield. And when Xerxes came on, I don't think he was very happy with his positioning and Højlund's positioning. So there's a lot of things that need a little bit of work. And to be fair, you know, when you're watching it on the TV, you don't always see Ruben Amorim, so you don't always constantly see, again, the reaction to every single pass, every single tackle, every single, you know, attacking piece of play, defensive piece of play, or anything like that. But certainly after the match, he did cut a very frustrated figure. But again, I look at yesterday, and maybe this is just early beginning of the rain optimism, or hopium, copium, whatever you want to call it. But I did actually, to be fair, look at yesterday as a positive for Ruben Amorim, because there's no sort of false dawns there, you know, which sometimes that can be a negative, you know, when you go, actually, you know, we win, everything's great. I don't actually need to change all that much. Oh yeah, no, everything's totally fine. No, you saw it yesterday. You saw it yesterday of, that's what he's dealing with. He's dealing with some players that are not good enough anyway. Some players, are they going to be good enough to function in his system? And I mentioned at the top of the show that there's parts you can take away from it and parts that I think us as fans can take away from it. But there's other parts we can't really take that much away from it. I mean, I was doing the pre-match yesterday on the match view, and when that team news came out, naturally, you know, there was the meltdown number one of the day, which was, look at this team, look at this, look at this, look at that. And you do have to take a step back and go, in an ideal scenario, a lot of those players would not be in his starting 11, certainly in the positions that they were in yesterday. We switched to a back three at a time we've got 4 centre-backs missing. So that back three would look very much different, because you'd put in Lenny Yoro, you'd put in Lisandro Martinez. The midfield would look different. You'd put in Ugarte, you'd maybe put in Kobbie Mainoo. That's already different. The wing backs, you would think, look different once Luke Shaw and Terrell Malacia are back to full fitness and they can start from, you know, they can start the matches. So that looks a bit different there. As far as the inside 10s, that's when you then get into, well, if Ahmad's not necessarily playing at wing back, is he going to be in an inside 10 position instead of maybe a Garnacho or something like that? I think one of the bigger concerns, and this kind of permeates, isn't it, the whoever's been in charge, is just the sheer lack of creativity and the sheer lack of sort of attacking play. We are so impotent, you know, going forward. And I've been saying this for months, even last year. Our decision-making in the final third, for me, is arguably the worst in the league. And what I mean by decision-making is, we can get 2/3 of the way up the pitch. We are in the final third, and these don't count as opportunities or chances or shot on targets or XG or anything like that. You get 2/3 of the way up the pitch, and you go, right, all you've got to do now, final pass. Final pass. Pick the right option. You've got a couple of options. Pick the right option, and then we'll be in for an opportunity to score. And 9 times out of 10, they get it wrong. they either pick the wrong pass or they just give it away. And previously that would have led to a counterattack. And he mentions that yesterday as well, of a sheer lack of decision making. And I think that is my concern. I'm just looking at yesterday going, how is he going to fix that? There's other parts of the team that I think could be obviously easy, but you can fix that. Positional stuff, midfield stuff, the wing back issue of just, it looked very much yesterday like the people that were playing at wing back, or all the players weren't really sure how to operate with wing backs in the team. But just bread and butter, can you improve your decision making? Can you be more ruthless up front? That is my concern, because I just don't know if they're capable of that. Now let's get into some of these quotes from Ruben Amorim. As mentioned, there's quite a lot he said after the game, and this was very interesting stuff. He said, "I think my players were thinking too much during the game. You could feel it. Just 2 days with the full squad." Now this was something that I mentioned on the full-time view yesterday, is that I don't think it's any coincidence that you could say that our best portion of the game was maybe the opening 10, 15 minutes. Obviously, we scored after in under 2 minutes, and our best portion of the game is the opening 10, 15 minutes. And I genuinely put that down to everything that they're meant to be doing in this system is fresh at that point. You know, for 2 days, as he mentioned, with the full squad, just 2 days, some players a little bit longer. It's been hammered home. This is what you do. When you're in this position, this is what you do. I want you to play the ball this way. If you're wing backs, I want you to have this kind of movement. If you're playing in this back three, this is what I want you to do. So it was fresh in their mind for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But as the game is then going on, you know, and things happen, because again, some of these players aren't good enough, or they can't handle the pressure, then they don't know what they're meant to be doing. And then, as he mentions, they start overthinking. It's not natural. It's not instinctual. And then they start overthinking. Plus, they don't have the ability to handle the pressure. I believe it was Amanor yesterday asked me on the full-time view as well. Said, well, if that's the case, how come people like Amad, shall we say, or Mazraoui, can play, understand the system already? Or how come they can handle it? How come they can stand out? And again, I put it down just to the ability to handle pressure. I put it down to the ability to perform under scrutiny. You know, we know that a lot of these players, when it comes to the intensity of being a Manchester United player, or the pressure that comes with it, they can't handle it. And particularly, again, in a situation where you're playing a system that's somewhat new to you, you know, pressure's on. You're terrified of making a mistake. The best players, they don't care. Okay, I'm going to keep doing my thing. I'm going to try and do the best that I can in this position. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to try and adapt. And some of the other people either low football IQ or can't adapt, but it will take time. And I know there'll be, you know, the people that are like, oh, see, nothing's changed. This is one of those situations where, again, it will take time. And it feels a bit funny, doesn't it, when you say, like, Ipswich away, it's a tough game. It is legitimately a tough game. Like, teams have gone to Portman Road and struggled this season, but you're Manchester United, you've got a team full of international players you would think should be winning that game, but we didn't deserve to. That's the other part of it yesterday. I think we didn't deserve to win that game. A draw was a fair result. Had we won that game, not that anyone would have cared, but you'd go, I don't know, United weren't that great. There's a lot of work to do. Clearly, there is a lot of work to do. And what you had yesterday as well, you had two sides. One side is an incredibly well-disciplined, knows their system, their play, their pressing triggers, their intensity levels inside and out. They don't have to think about what they're doing. They know exactly where they're meant to be, what they're meant to be doing, and they execute it very, very well. Versus another team that largely didn't look like they had a clue at points what they were meant to be doing at the best of times, let alone with a new system, and are trying to kind of figure it all out, right? Figure it all out. But what I can say, and this is why yesterday I said there are positives. I saw positives in terms of Ruben Amorim's substitutions, how quickly he realised things weren't working, 55 minutes, 65 minutes, bringing people off. I can see what he how he wants to lay Manchester United out. I can see the tactics of the system are very clear to see. And I think if you can see that as a fan, and you can see elements of it, hopefully, game by game, week by week, month by month, getting better, then I think that's easier to buy into or hold on to. But there is going to be, no doubt, there is going to be some very, very testing and challenging moments, I think, over the next, 3 to 6 months, certainly. I mean, and certainly, I think that, a week on Wednesday, we've got Arsenal at the Emirates. And let's be completely transparent here, I think, guys. Let's be completely honest. If we play like we did yesterday against Arsenal at the Emirates, we will lose. We will lose. And I think it's upon ourselves not to have a complete meltdown if that happens. Because, again, it's very, 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 very early days when it comes to Ruben Amorim. Super chat here from United Love says, it's all about bravery. Oh, and I haven't got my my little chat thing on this screen. Let me move it back. There you go. What you call it? Says it's about bravery. When you're scared to do, you default to what you've always done, where you're comfortable, or follow the rules. I think change of players fixes it. I think Cobby, Leacher, Mount bring more control and intensity. Sir Ryan says, before the game, whatever the results, don't overanalyze. Soon after. Challenge is bigger. Concerns, can't handle pressure. Media is biased. LOL. But I think you can analyze the game. I think maybe when it comes to don't overanalyze, I think the suggestion would maybe be don't overanalyze Ruben Amorim's tenure at Manchester United. You can analyze the game and the players and the system, and you can come to conclusions. There's nothing wrong with that. I think when they say don't overanalyze, I think they would mean don't overanalyze in terms of it's never going to work for Ruben Amorim. He's no different to Ten Hag. He's no different to any other Man United manager that's been here previously. It's done. He's finished. He's going to be the very latest in a long line that's failed. We don't know that. But you can certainly take learnings from the game. Like I said, it sounds very Michael Owen punditry, doesn't it? You can learn a lot, but also not a lot from yesterday, I think, because, some parts of it, put it this way, in 12 months' time, he will not be playing that starting 11. No way. 6 months' time, he will not be playing that starting 11. Absolutely no chance. So that's when you go, what can you take away from that game as well? Right, let's get through some of these quotes. There's quite a lot. He says, you have to control the ball after scoring so early. Control the tempo of the game. We cannot do it at the moment, but they really tried. And they want this. He also said, we have to be so much better physically. We need time to work these things. Now, this was something that he mentioned prior to the match as well. He mentioned prior to the match that we needed to work on our physicality, our running back. He also said we need to keep the ball better. We did have more possession yesterday. Interestingly, covered, I think, was our second least amount of distance that we have done this season. Now, there's many different ways you could probably look at that. You can look at that as, well, they cover less distance because they had more of the ball. Or, as he's saying there, is it because they're not up to snuff physically and they don't have that intensity? And to be fair, I see a lot of people talking about that after the game, saying that just the intensity just isn't there. And when you do compare that to the opposition, their level of intensity, their level of, pressing, tackling, running is night and day. And Ruben Amorim's got to find a way of doing that. I mean, again, when it comes to, when you play a system of like wing backs as well, this is why lots of people are looking, I think, particularly at that, who's going to play at wing back moving forward. Because I don't think that's going to be Ahmad. I know he did well yesterday, but I don't think long term that's going to be him. That is a position where you just associate a lot of physicality, don't you? Running up and down, constantly, intense. You're an attacking threat. You're a defensive threat. You're also, sometimes inverted into midfield too. You're everywhere. And if you just looked at our squad, looked at the Man United squad and you go, Well, who could do that? Who is someone that could be up and down, carry a threat going forward, defensively solid, and again, just intense like that. I can't really think of any of who I've described the squad as like just again totally intense. And there was rumours last week, wasn't it? I think Romano was reported that they're already in the summer looking for that left wing back, whether that is going to be Alphonso Davies or someone of the like. There aren't many, and he's right with that. Ruben Amorim, we absolutely do have to improve the physicality. He mentioned there, as I mentioned, about the speaking more than he spoke at Sporting. This was also quite interesting too, when he spoke about how basically we're going to have to go through the tough stuff. We're going to have to go through the tough stuff for it. It's going to have to get worse before it gets better, kind of thing. He says, if we try just to win games and don't risk nothing in this moment, I guarantee next year at the same stage, we will have the same problems. We have to address the new idea and try to be better. He said a really good quote. I'm not sure if it's in this batch, where he essentially said, I could come in and and just go with what these players know. I could go in with what these players know just on the basis of, look, need to win games, need to get up the table, and that's what we need to do. So basically, I could come in and I could go 4-2-3-1. This is what you guys know. Let's play on the counter-attack. Let's win games, and let's do that. And I could do that, but then long-term, for what I want us to do, I'm going to have to change again at some point. And that's kind of what happened with Erik ten Hag, wasn't it? He came in with a way that he wanted to play, very quickly realised he couldn't do that, pivoted, it worked, the first season, finished third, Carabao Cup, but then when he kept going back to what he wanted to do, it would completely fall apart. And Ruben Amorim was sort of essentially saying there is, we've just got to kind of do it from the start, grin and bear it. It will get worse before it gets better. But if we do it now, then long term we will reap the rewards from it. Which I do agree with him of that. I do agree with if you've got your principles, you stick with it. Certainly initially, and then 6 months down the line, if it's not working, then you go bloody hell. What are we gonna do? Or 9 months down the line, what are we gonna do then? Bloody hell. But certainly out of the gate, I think people would look at him totally differently if. Just initially, imagine 20 minutes into yesterday's game, he switched to a back four. I went 4-2-3-1. We played on the counter attack. We'd be like, oh, that's not good. And then we'd have the discussions again, wouldn't we? Of player power, players. Manchester United's corrupted another coach. That's what's happened. So I do think he's right in that regard with what he's saying there. Doom has been a member for 28 months, bloody hell. Says, poor Amorim, he's still coming to terms with media commitments. Bye, bro. These players need to be coached basics on 300k wages. I'm flawed. Yeah, you know what? It's he's not the first manager to talk about the media side of things or the commercial side of things. Right? It was something that I remember Louis van Gaal complaining about that tremendously. I think Jose was somewhat similar. I remember Louis van Gaal was furious with. I think it was his first pre-season, wasn't it? I think it was his first pre-season. And they were doing friendlies like coast to coast, from the west coast to the east coast of the United States. And he was all over the place. And he was like, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. Now, obviously, Ruben Amorim's not having to deal with that at this point of time. But he's basically saying, look, I can't work with my players and I can't get better if I'm going to be doing an interview every 5 minutes, or I'm going to be doing media obligations every 5 minutes. And I think he's right when it comes to that. So it'll be interesting to see if that does get scaled down. In the next couple of weeks of, look, I will do the broadcasting commitments that I have to do, i.e. press conference, post-match interview. That's what you have to do. But the other stuff that I don't have to do, not going to do it, basically, If it means not talking to the in-house media, sorry, not going to do it. If it means having these sort of sit-down interviews with, again, other parts of the media that I don't have to do, not going to do it. And if they get frustrated about it, who cares? Someone else can talk to them. Give them a player, give them one of the backroom staff or someone to talk to or something like that. We don't have time. The results and the performances really matter at the moment, don't they? He also said, it's not a good result, but it's a tough league with high intensity. We started very well, but we should have had more of the ball, but we are learning. Something that he mentioned pre-match as well about having to keep the ball better. On the new formation, he said, quote, it was really hard for them, the Man United players. They were thinking what to do. It was not fluid, which was normal after just 2 training sessions, but they tried hard. They have so much space to improve. And, that's also when I think I saw someone in the chat earlier on saying that there was a meltdown on social media yesterday, which, look, you have to take with a pinch of salt. It's not the real world, is it? Social media, and particularly nowadays, I think social media is a place just to go to meltdown, isn't it? I'm going to scream at the sky, but heaven forbid going outside. It's cold. I'm gonna go to X, or I'm gonna go to wherever and say everything's terrible, because I think it wasn't really eye-opening, but I did, obviously, whenever we have the match for you, obviously I do the pre-match, and whenever the team news comes out, discuss it, or whether the leaks of the team news come out yesterday, and honestly, it was somewhat staggering how the team news came out yesterday. And there was this sheer lack of belief about what the formation was going to be, even though Ruben Amorim had explicitly told everyone it was going to be a 3-4-3, explicitly told everyone that that's what it was going to be. And there was still a lot of, no, it's not. It's not going to be that. No, it's not going to be that. And then, as he mentions, we've switched to this new formation. They've had 2 days of training playing it. And then we look at it and we go, yeah, it doesn't look very, very fluid, that. Well, what do you expect? Imagine you're learning to drive. You've had 2 lessons, and then someone goes, you can't drive very well. You go, well, obviously, I've only done it twice. I'm not amazing at it. It's going to take more time. I've got to keep doing more training. It's like anything. The only way again, a life lesson, isn't it? Is that the only way you get better with doing anything, it's repetition. You have to do it over and over and over and over and over again. So I don't think we should be particularly shocked that we see yesterday go, oh, that new formation, that doesn't look totally fluid. And as is the case with Live 2, some people are faster to adapt than others. Some people can adapt, some people can't. So yeah, that answers that question, because as I mentioned earlier on, people would say, well, what about Ahmad and Mazraoui? Maybe they're better football players than some of those other players, right? Maybe they're quicker at adapting than some of those other players. Maybe they can play in some of those positions the other guys can't. That's I sound like Marcel now, but it's true. That's part of the process, isn't it? Who can do it, who can't? I think a lot of you already know. We all know who can and can't do it. But what we can't do, I think, is just snap judgments about, that's not going to work. That's not going to happen. Did you see it yesterday? Oof, that says a lot, doesn't it? That's not going to work. Well, we'll see. If in Sirens in the chat, first of the day, if it's as Ruben Amorim said in his first press conference, if in 2 years' time you see a performance like we saw yesterday, and the players don't look like they have a clue about where they're meant to be on the pitch, what they're meant to be doing, they look like they're a complete, strangers. They're looking over towards the bench going, what am I supposed to be doing? Then they go, well, that's an issue. That's a red flag. That's a problem. But after your first game, after a couple of weeks of training, coming out of an international break, that's when you do look at the formation. You go, well, you read into that too much, because that is just going to take time. That's going to take time. And as he's right, there's so much space to improve on that one. We've got over 1,300 people watching, which is fantastic. We're currently at 303 likes. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Let's see if we can get it to 500. That would be excellent this morning. And be sure, again, to get your comments in, your chats in, and we'll discuss them. We'll get them up on the screen. Skiliano says, Ahmad and Mazraoui have better game IQ. Hamza says, playing Casemiro and Eriksen together in a 3-4-3 is asking for trouble. Need legs in midfield, which they both don't have, made worse by Eriksen pushing forward at the time. But again, this is why I will give him the benefit of the doubt yesterday, because you then go, well, who else? That, for me anyway, clearly, that starting 11 was not a starting 11 he would want to play. It's not. But you then have to go, well, who else was he going to play? You look at the bench that we had yesterday. Let's get the bench up on the screen. It was filled with players that had just come back from injury and hadn't played for months, a lot of them. Really? Mason Mount, back from an injury, couldn't start. Hoyland, Xerxes, they're available, but they're not midfielders. Manuel Ugarte, but people were surprised by that. Initially, I was, but then when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. We always know after an international break, it's a problem with Ugarte. We've had how many international breaks this season? 3. And every single time we've had one, he came back the latest out of anyone with Uruguay. He's not going to be available for the weekend. So he wasn't going to play. Kobbie Mainoo just back from an injury. So, well, that 11, yesterday when you saw it come out, you go, well, that's actually that's the 11 he could pick, wasn't it? Bench is filled with players that are coming back from injury. In an ideal world, if people are fit, which is not always the case, you're not going to always get everyone fit, but in an ideal world, you got Johnny Evans playing, was it right centre-back, left centre-back yesterday, left centre-back, it'd be Leacher. Got Mazraoui playing right centre-back, it'd be Lenny Yoro. The wing-backs, you would think, left wing-back probably be, I don't know if it's going to be Luke Shaw, because he came on yesterday, which was good. But we talk about physicality and intensity. Don't know if he's got that in him. So who the left wing back is, I don't know. Right wing back, you would probably think would be either Mazraoui or Dalot. Midfield, you're going Eriksson, probably wouldn't be him. Probably would be Kobbie. Casemiro, might not be him, might be Ugarte. You're looking at Garnacho and Bruno, might not be Garnacho, might be Ahmad in that position. Striker, that's anyone's guess at this point, I think. Anyone's guess, because I'm not convinced by kind of anyone up front at the moment for United. So there's a lot. It was, as Ryan says there in the chat, it was very makeshift. That starting 11 was very, very makeshift. And hopefully, by the time we do play Arsenal in, 9 days' time, some of those players are back and it looks a bit more cohesive in that regard. And they've had more time on the training pitch too. Continuing on, Ruben Amorim says, but after a draw, you never feel good things. So I'm really happy because they tried, but they can do so much better, as we mentioned previously. On the early goal, he says, we worked on that, but they have the talent to do it. And then it's all about the players. He also said, this is a bit of a weird thing that I mentioned this before. When any new coach, this isn't even really related to United, but when any new coach comes to the Premier League, we have to do this sort of thing where, the journalists certainly do, but when they kind of pat ourselves on the back a lot, you know what I mean? Pat ourselves on the back a lot and say how great the league is. We go like, it's Premier League. Is the Premier League better than where you came from? Is the Premier League great? Premier League's way better than where you came from, isn't it? And then they have to say something nice about the Premier League. So he said, it's a great environment, a great spectacle, but when the game starts, it's like I'm back in Portugal or the third division. I'm so focused, everything is the same. And when managers say stuff like that, they get all very offended, don't they? So you're saying the Premier League's like playing in the third division in Portugal? Is that what you're saying? Well, you won't last here. I tell you, you won't last here if you say things like that about our Premier League. Don't you dare say anything about... No. Football doesn't exist outside the Premier League, I think you'll find. No league's anywhere near. No league has what we have, which is the same people winning 4 years in a row. That's not what happened. Competitive. This season it is quite competitive. Well, actually, I say that. How many points ahead of Liverpool at this point? But you get my point. We do this thing about Premier League's great. Premier League's fantastic, isn't it? Oh, it's amazing. And it is the best league in the world, but you don't need to, again, have all that kind of stuff. He also says, you guys are so lucky to have the best league in the world. I'm really happy to be here today, but I don't feel much because I like to win games, which again is the right answer. Because, if he came out in the press conference afterwards and was like, we didn't win today, but I love the Premier League. Premier League's fantastic. Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, we get it. It's fine. It carries on. by saying, the second half we didn't play very well, but we controlled the game better. We created better than Ipswich, but we have to find more time to work with the players because we can do so much better. And look, that's the overarching message, isn't it? It's the overarching message coming out of the game yesterday is just need more time. With more time, it will get better. With more time, the players will understand the system more. With more time, he'll find out more about the players too, won't he? You know, that's also part of it. I think he found out a lot about the players quite quickly too. You'll see in some quotes later on about naming some players individually as well. What I do like, and this was something that I had hoped from him anyway, is that he would be ruthless with some of these players. I did really like that he made the substitutions early. To be honest, it felt a bit strange. I'm kind of used for the last few years of having substitutions not so early, particularly in the last year. But 55 minutes, 65 minutes, he'll realise again which players can and can't do it very, very fast. And again, that was one of my sort of positive takeaways from yesterday was that actually he gets it. He's not deluded. And as he's mentioned many a times, he's not naive. He sees it. And the fact that he was making those changes so quickly and he recognises the issues very quickly, I think, again, is a positive sign. I do. It might not be positive yesterday, but I think it is a positive sign. On Ahmad, who played very well yesterday, Ruben Amorim said he was very good. In 3 days, he's improved so much defensively. He was facing the left back. He just had to follow him. He was so focused. He did a very good job. And he did. Look, our 3 best players yesterday, kind of, again, this isn't really specific, I suppose, to whatever coach has been in charge this season. But our 3 best players yesterday were Ahmad, Mazraoui, and Andre Onana. They were the 3 best players. It's that's been overarching for the whole season, hasn't it? Ahmad obviously gets an assist for the goal. We kind of mishit the cross, but I think he did very well. Looked dangerous. In an ideal world, again, I would prefer him not to really be a wing back. I think he could be much more dangerous as an inside 10 in where Garnacho was, maybe alongside Bruno. But it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward this season, just when it comes to lack of options too. Mazraoui still is the best signing that we've done, obviously in the summer window. I'd hold him up, to be fair, against most signings just throughout the summer, in terms of value for money, by the way. You say Mazraoui, he can do everything. What can't he do? He's played right centre-back, left-back, right-back, 10, and every position he plays in, he is a consistent, easy, at least 7 out of 10 minimum, every single match, minimum. And also for the worries that we had about Mazraoui of, fitness record might be a bit, don't know about that. He's always available. Thank God he's always available, because we've had 2 fullbacks for the entirety of the season. He's always been available. Every position he plays in, he's completely comfortable. Left foot, right foot, press resistant, doesn't give the ball away, good defensively, and he's just consistent. You don't have to worry about him. I think, again, the biggest compliment you can probably give actually Mazraoui is when that team news came out yesterday and people are trying to figure out who goes where. We were like, okay, maybe Mazraoui. It looks like Mazraoui is going to be at right wing back, centre back rather. The initial reaction was just, yeah, he can do that. Of course he can do that. Yeah, absolutely he can do that. No problem. And he can do anything. he can do anything. So, I think top signing. And then as far as Andre Onana, I obviously been very, very critical about him in the past, particularly last season when he first came in, shocking. This season, to be fair, I'll hold my hands up. He has done something that I didn't think he was actually capable of, which is he can actually make saves. He can actually. I'll have to go. I have a big screen for this because he can actually make saves, like proper saves, which I didn't think was capable. I mentioned before that my thing with him was I thought, I don't know. Like sometimes you would have De Gea have those games where he saves everything, and then we win the game or we get a draw, and you go, we wouldn't have got a win or a draw today without David De Gea. He saved everything. It could have been, and maybe should have been 4-1 or 5-1 or what have you. that was him, and he's done it a few times this season. I mean, has he got the most clean sheets, or at least joint most clean sheets in the league? And that's not just been because, defensively we have been all right. He's made big saves. He's saved penalties, good shot stopping. The one yesterday, it's one of those ones as a goalkeeper, you can't even really do much about it. All you can do, you can just come out, spread yourself as much as you can, make yourself big, and it hits his arm. It's a top save. And I actually felt with the goal yesterday too, had it not got the deflection, I think it was off Mazraoui, wasn't it? With the form that he was in, he'd probably saved that actually. And a couple of times claimed some crosses, which I'd like to see more of that, in fairness, from him. But you can't. We're now at the stage, I suppose, with him where we are sort of nitpicking, but that's good. That's good. I mean, it's still like his long distance passing, bit of a myth. Probably needs to speed it up when the ball's at his feet, but they play it out from the back. He's very, very comfortable doing that too. It just feels like something that last season we were particularly worried about it going, bloody hell, they're going to have a shot, it's going to go in. Whereas now you go, actually, he's saving us. He's saving us. We don't get a point yesterday if it's not for Andre Onana. Let's be completely honest. With the amount of chances, the Ipswich did have bigger chances. We don't get anything out of that game without Andre Onana. So deserves a huge amount of credit for that. And I think if you were going to be talking about players of the season already, which is still early, a lot of time to go, but you'd be going, it'd probably be between those three, really. You'd be going, well, Onana, Mazraoui, maybe we'll see what happens with Ahmad, but it'd probably that would be the conversation, wouldn't it? That would be the conversation with him. So yeah, I hold my hands up. Credit. I mean, he's got a mistake in his locker, I think. But the thing is, every goalkeeper does. Every goalkeeper has a mistake in their locker. You look at, I think the best goalkeeper in the league is Alisson. Look at the best goalkeeper; he's got a mistake in his locker. They all do. But if you're constantly making big saves and you're constantly, more often than not, being secure and bailing your team out, then you'll forgive it all. So I think, again, it deserves a huge amount of credit for that, certainly, does Andre Onana. So we carry on with what Ruben Amorim was saying. Let's skip ahead to where were we at? We were at, I think it was number 13 is the quote we were at for this one. There you go, with the what you call it and the thingy. Yes, after Ahmad, he says, what I understood today is the Manchester United players, are trying. They are really trying. They stay in positions, they receive the information, and they try to use it in the game. That is very important. He also says the players are intelligent, which many people might dispute. They have to believe in that. They have to believe and remember they are good players. They have to enjoy. He also said, I know it's frustrating for fans, but we are changing so much in this moment with a lot of games. We are going to suffer for a long period. We will try to win games. This will take time. These guys had 2 days in training. So this was kind of what I was mentioning previously when he said that, there's going to be this, we're going to have to suffer. We're going to have to go through the pain. I think it was Amanor last night on the full time. You asked me, are you willing to suffer? And to be fair, look, there will be the reactionary folk that if we have some bad results will be like Amorim out because, again, let's scream at the sky. But it's a lot easier to go through those difficult moments, that pain, is if you can see the idea, which I will give him credit for yesterday, is that with only 2 days, I can see what he was trying to do. And the expectation would be that it's not going to be perfect. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some transfer windows as well. But if people can see an idea and they can see an attempt at improvement, then they'll be willing to hang on to that. And again, I think that's going to be the case. But as I said earlier on, with some of the big games we got coming up, just keep that in your mind. keep that in your mind, because I don't know. I don't know if I'm not necessarily want to start, putting it out there into the world like this. But if we play like we did yesterday against some of those clubs, then we could have some pretty bad results coming up. But again, you've got to be willing to go through the pain. Now, Amorim was asked if the players thinking too much is a confidence issue, and he said, no, it's different things. They are thinking too much because they are so different. Some details, they used to pass the ball and go forward. Even the centre-backs, now they have to go back. These types of things. They start to go forward, then they have to think too much. Dalot used to pass the ball to centre-backs and go inside and play as a midfielder. Now he has to stick to this position. So it's hard for the players in 3 days to cope with everything. We have two ways. We forget about the new idea, and that is why I was brought here, and we try and cope with the things that they used to do. Next year, at the same stage, we'll be here with the same problems. Or we start now, we risk a little bit, we suffer a little bit, and in the next year, we will be better. So we have to risk a little bit. And to be fair, I can't say it any better than that, and he's the Man United head coach, so he would say it better than me. But that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier on, which is you have two choices. You can go with what they know in just the attempt of getting results and firefighting, or you can say, nope, we start now, we risk it, we suffer, but in the long term, it will be better. It will be better. And to be fair, he's given way more detail there than I think even journalists or whatever deserve. He's given examples when he said, look, centre-backs, previously, they were always trying to pass the ball, go forward. Now I'm telling them don't do that. So in the game, you're fighting your instincts. Wing-back, Dalot. Previously, he's an inverted fullback. He's in the middle of the park. He's in the middle, pass it, go midfield. I'm telling him, do the opposite of that. Stay out wide, hold your position. So you got to think about it. And in 2 or 3 days, that's difficult to cope because, and you might say, oh, that's basics though. Why can't you just deal with that in the game? Well, when you go for a top flight game of football, stuff's happening. Going, oh, am I meant to be going here? What am I meant to be doing here? So it's going to be, that's going to be a challenge. And as he said, I could just tell him, do what you've been doing. But the key thing, as he says there, that's not why I was brought here. He says, we forget the new idea, and that is why I was brought here. And again, that's the difference. Previously, the past manager said, I can't do Ajax football here. I don't have Ajax players. And many people looked at that and said, well, why were you brought here there in the first place? We watched Ruben Amorim's Sporting Lisbon. The hierarchy at Manchester United watched Ruben Amorim Sporting and said, I'll have some of that. I want that. Bring that to Manchester United. I want that. So if he came in, said, can't do that, don't have sporting players here, don't have players that can do it, can't do it, we'd be going, why the fucking hell do we bring you in then if you can't do it? Why do we bring you to do that? So, so he's right with what he's saying there. I was brought in to play this way. I'm going to play this way. It's going to take some time. It's going to take time because I'm unpicking previous instincts. I'm unpicking previous ideas. So yeah, right now we're going to risk it. And look, the risk is that you don't get the results or you take some big beatings, basically, isn't it? The risk is that we go to the Emirates few days time next week and we get absolutely smashed and we're like, oh, that's embarrassing. That's shit. But in a year's time, we're like, who cares? Who cares about what happened a year ago? Look at this great football we're playing now. Look at these results that we're getting. So you got to risk it, got to suffer, but it will get better. And look, and if it doesn't get better, then there'll be big questions asked. But initially, now's not the time to compromise on your beliefs or anything like that. I think I thought that was a really good answer from Ruben Amorim there. And finally, again, get a bit more information about this. He says, at the end of the game, we are around the box with two strikers. Josh, that being Joshua Zirkzee, has to understand that he has to go into the box for crosses. Now, I saw, once again, a lot of people criticising Zirkzee when he came on. I credit Ruben Amorim for trying to change the game, but just none of the subs were really that effective in the sense of they didn't do anything. Didn't do anything. And that's the problem I mentioned earlier on. I look towards our attacking threat or lack thereof, and I really worry because I just don't know where those kind of goals are coming from. I really don't. And, when it comes to Zirkzee, I'm still willing to give him time because I always say, like your players, I'll give him a season at least, but it's not looking good. With Højlund, now I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, Højlund could be, Gyökeres, that's what he can be. I don't know if I see that, in all honesty. Rashford, I think Rashford probably will continue to play up front under Ruben Amorim. But what I would also say about Rashford is, I don't know if it's years of injuries or years of overplaying or change in physique or what have you. But I was saying this to Flex after the game yesterday. He looks like he's 2 or 3 yards slower than he used to be. There were a couple of times yesterday where he was in a foot race with the centre back and he just looks slow. It reminded me of when Fernando Torres, but just as he went to Chelsea, and you go, didn't he used to be quick like 2 years ago, or quicker 2 years ago? And he had some hamstring problems and he was just never the same after that. That's what Rashford looks like. He just looks slow. Like in a foot race, those sort of times. Well, I think it was one in the first half where it was a ball, and I think the centre back's coming across, and I thought he can nick it past him. He can go past him there, and he kind of went back a little bit and was just slow. I thought, hey, he just looks again slow. Like, and I think when people have been talking about Rashford playing as the 9, I think maybe in our head we've been thinking of Rashford from like a couple of years ago when he was quicker, and he's just not that. He just is not that. And the big problem is if he has legitimately lost a couple of yards of pace, then you go, all right, then what are you then bringing to the table? Because without those couple of yards of pace, that's a big part of Rashford's game. So again, I don't know if that's the injuries that he's had. I don't know if that's confidence. I don't know. But that was a real eye-opener for me yesterday when I went, he looks slow. Like, slower than I've seen Marcus Rashford for a while. It's not to say like he's like walking pace, but yeah, it never felt like he won a foot race yesterday. Never fully in the sprint. And it always reminds me of what Michael Owen was saying when he was saying about after he'd had some injuries, there's this like thing in the back of your head going, oh, don't run, you'll pull your hamstring, or don't actually go for a sprint there, you'll get hurt. And I was just thinking that as I watched Rashford yesterday. Again, it might be completely unfounded. I might be talking complete waffle there. But yeah, it was just, that was a real eye opener for me yesterday. I went, he looks slower, like a lot slower than maybe would have been expected. And then, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's like I said. Then I have concerns about just whoever's going to play as the 9 for United, because I just don't see where the goals are going to come from. I don't see, Xerxes. He's not going to get goals. He never got goals. Højlund. Again, I still have reservations on Højlund. And then Rashford, like I said, I go, well, if he has lost a yard of pace or so. So, yeah, it's that is a problem. Already you're going next summer, if you're going to recruit for positions for United, you'd go like wing-backs, particularly on the left, striker, again. We'll probably have the 3rd consecutive summer where we need to sign a striker. And then maybe we'll be looking at the inside 10s also, being like, is there anyone out there we could get to fill that role too? So there's definitely work to be done. Absolutely. We're 4 likes away from 500. 4 likes away from 500. If you haven't already, click the like button. Let's see if we can get to 500 likes on the way out. And be sure to subscribe as well whilst you're at it. What's coming up for the remainder of today? Well, I'll tell you. We've got the red carpet coming up at 7 p.m. Flex, KG, that comedian, THA, that comedian. And myself will of course be joined by Football Content Award winner Alice Talks Football. Big up to Alice. As well as Saeed and Adam. They'll be joining us at 7 p.m. So we're going live for that one. So be sure to join us then. For the remainder of the week, there's a busy week. Busy week coming up, of course. Tuesday, we'll have morning show, Flexing KG. Wednesday, we'll have morning show. Is it what the devil on Wednesday? I forget. But also, Wednesday will be Ruben Amorim press conference day, of course, prior to the Europa League on Thursday. So we'll have coverage of that. Thursday, as I mentioned, we'll have the match day. We'll have Manchester United versus Bodo Glimt in the Europa League. And then Friday, of course, we've got morning show. We've got Trinity. We've also then got the build-up to playing Everton once again on Sunday, not televised. It's one of those weeks where we're playing Thursday, Sunday, but we're playing Everton, not televised, I don't think. So that's a lot of fun. So that's going to be fun. But Ruben Amorim's first 2 games at Old Trafford this week, so a big week for Manchester United. So if you haven't already, subscribe to United View, click the notification bell, you'll be notified every time we go live if anything else happens. And I'll be back later on, 7 p.m. for the red carpet. I'll see you all then. Peace!